In this tutorial, I'm going to show how to set up an indexed axis or indexed move in motion control. Basically, this is very similar to shooting 3D, where you have a 3D slider that has a left position and a right position for frame 1 and a left position and a right position for frame 2 set up to different exposures. But we're going to use that same idea but in a different way. We're going to take what we call a chopper. It's a motorized arm that's going to come into the shot with a piece of green screen on it for a secondary exposure. And this is a trick you can use to separate out a character if you need to from the shot, maybe for post-coloring, or maybe you have an effect going on that has to happen behind the character. And if you just had the green screen in the shot, you'd have to clear the green spill off the character. But this way, you could pull the matte from the green screen, but then apply it to the clean shot. So we're going to set up two exposures, and one's going to have the green and one's going to not have the green. And then we're going to go into maybe even changing the lighting between the two exposures so that the green screen really pops. So, okay, here we go. Right now I'm just in the animation window, but we'll move over to the cinematography workspace. And the first thing I'm going to do here is set up a second exposure. So I'll hit that plus button there. I'm going to pop in here and I'm going to call this GS for green screen. So I go GS. Okay, that way I'll know what it is. Every frame that has a GS on it will be the green screen pass. Okay, so we have our two exposures there. Now let's go into the motion control and create a new axis. So we create a new one. I'm going to call this one green. And we're going to assign it to channel 6 because that's the channel I've got this motor on. And function is normal, but for indexing, we're going to set 2 positions. Now the motor I'm actually using is an old focus motor, so I'm going to use the math on the arc focus. Now when I did arc focus, it changed the function back to focus, so I want to put that back to normal. I already have a focus motor set up, so don't want to confuse the system. I'm going to say OK to that, and now we have this axis called green, and you can see, just like the 3D, it's got 2 programmable positions on it. Just for ease of use, I'm going to change the color on here so I can kind of see some color on these lines. Just make some random picks here on the color. Okay, so let's solo these. We're going to assign this position, which is currently negative 25.30, and we're going to call this position 1. So I'm going to go ahead and put a keyframe there. So when the main exposure is taken, this chopper is out of frame. Then what we're going to do here is drive it into the shot like so, and we will make a keyframe here for this position, and this will be number 2. All right, now how do we assign this number 2 back to our exposures? Let's go back to the exposure we made. I'm going to double click on it, and you'll see that we've got a list here. Here's green, and they're both set to position 1. We now can set this to 2. Now it knows that these positions are assigned to these exposures. All right. We're doing a very simple setup where these positions are just one position all the way through, either on or off, basically. It's like a binary, but you could do some pretty interesting things by animating these as well. So know that these are just as animatable as a normal axis. But right now, we can kind of jump back and forth like this to show the positions that it's going to take. Now, I'm noticing that there's this shadow here on the green, and we can also assign different DMX lighting programs to the exposures, which will also be tied into the positions. So here we go. Let's go into our DMX, and we see that we have global lighting, and we've got main, which is our main exposure, which is taken from the global, and then we have this GS, our green screen. So what we can do on the GS is we can detach these from their parented positions, and then I'm going to turn down these lights. These are our main lights. And I've got a light set up with actually a green gel on it, which is really going to make this green pop. And I'm going to lift that up. I haven't taken a lot of time to make this perfectly lit evenly. So there we go. So we have a lit green screen, and this will be our second exposure. Okay, let's see how this works. We'll go back into the cinematography workspace, and now when we switch from one exposure to the next here, it shows us the lighting change. Okay, when we go to our ready to capture, it's telling us, hey, we need to move the green. It gets it out of the way. Say okay. And now let's imagine we handed the shot over to the animators, and they were in the animation workspace. They would animate, press the shoot button. It shot the main exposure. And now, very slowly, this chopper's coming in. Okay, I feel like we need to change the speed on this thing. Okay, we're going to speed up that exposure to exposure speed of the indexed move. Let's go into the axis controls by clicking on the name. And this is where we want to change this. We want to go 1 speed for frame-to-frame moves. I'm going to change the acceleration to 1 second. And I can see that the max live speed for this motor is 90,000. So I'm just going to go 80,000 here. You know, that should do it. Or maybe something crazy will happen, but we'll give it a shot. So we're going to say OK to that. We're going to put ourselves back into ready to capture mode. Go back into the animation window, and I'm going to go ahead and hit the shoot button again. Okay, we got our main exposure. Oh, there we go. That's great. Zipping in and out. Look at that. So now let's look at the frames we just shot. If we come into the cinematography workspace and we open this up, we can see that we've got our main exposures, frame 1 and frame 2, and we've got our green exposures, frame 1 and frame 2, and one could be used to matte the other perfectly. I'm going to go into preferences and turn off the capture blackout just so you can see what's going on here a little bit easier. Okay, so here we go. We are in the ready to capture mode. I hit the button, gets the beauty light, and then gets the green screen. Okay, I'll shoot another one. Okay, so now we can go ahead and look at these in the cinematography workspace. And you see here are, frame 1 beauty, frame 1 green. You can go along and check them all, and you'd have a nice matte. It's a little dark on this side. I could take some more time to get this even, but you could see how this could really help in trying to dial in an effect shot on your project. Okay, thanks for checking it out.